to help people, harness their creativity and use it in a way that maybe they weren't quite able to do in the first place. And it was a great chat with Leah. And if you haven't listened to it, please, like I said, go back and have a listen. You can support us and buy me a coffee if you like. Throw a few quid our way, and it always goes back into the podcast. Anyways, we're doing, watching films that people have made. They come on the podcast and reading books that people have written, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, if you'd like to do that, do it. It's very kind of you, and thank you very much. This episode is called Ranking Those 41 Songs. So, if you don't know, on episode 197 episodes ago, I did a 41, what was it? 41 years, 41 songs. So for every year that I was born, I picked my favorite song from that particular year. And it took me a while to kind of finish it. I got very into it, but I think it was a successful episode. But the reason I wanted to kind of follow up on it was because there's a certain OCD and a certain try to clean things up, and kind of leaving those 41 songs out there as singular things in singular years didn't feel quite right. So I thought I'd wrap them all up, and I kind of actually enjoyed doing the ranking, to be honest. I do love a list, so I did enjoy the experience of it. Some people who have listened to the episode 189 will know what's kind of number one and number two, but after that, I guess it's kind of a free for all. But some people will probably be surprised by some positions of certain songs as well. So it was enjoyable. So yeah, if you haven't listened to that, go back and then come back to this one, and you can agree or disagree on my choices. I did actually, before I get going, I at the time of recording, I just came back from Killarney. I went to the Kerry International Film Festival, which I was invited to very kindly by the organisers. I was kind of surprised about it. I thought it was a spam, some spam emails, until I actually went into the hotel in Killarney and they said, "Oh yeah, we've got your room for you." I kind of went, well, unless they're playing the long game here, this is more than likely the actual thing that's happening. It was really like, Killarney's lovely town. That the film that I saw, it's called Hungry Hill. It's a documentary. It was really enjoyable kind of film, very engrossing, and really captivating kind of film. And everybody seemed to enjoy it. I loved it. The downside of the trip was my extreme social anxiety. My anxiety is if I literally wanted to get back on the train as soon as I stepped off in Killarney. I thought I'm too far away and I'm on my own, and it's too daunting of an experience. And I kind of stayed in the hotel that evening, apart from getting something to eat. But the next day I was kind of up. That night I had this kind of 2 hours of just complete despair, hole in my chest level of depression. I don't know where it came out of. I don't know where I went to either. Because next day I got up and then I switched the hotels. I had to go to a different hotel, and I went for a walk in Killarney National Park, and that's unbelievable. That mountains took my breath away, coming from the flattest part of Ireland, to go to somewhere like that with actual mountains, not like the Dublin Mountains. These are seem to be proper. I don't know why, more rugged maybe. Topography, that's the right word, isn't it? So there was that, and then I went to the hotel for the pre-film drinks, the pre-opening night drinks, and I got to speak to Declan, the organizer, invited me, so I got to say thanks, but I didn't speak to anyone else. I literally sat in the corner, and that's not one of those things that people say. I sat in the corner. I literally sat in the corner, just terrified to talk to people. And I left after about 10 minutes after speaking to Declan. Walked up to the cinema, stood outside the cinema for a half an hour, doing a crossword on my phone, went in, really enjoyed the film. Like I said, came out with the film, thought to myself, there's no chance of me going to the after show drinks or whatever you'd call them. And I actually ended up walking around Killarney in the dark and the rain for about an hour to calm myself down before I went back to the hotel, because I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep because the anxiety was rampant. And by that stage, then when I kind of turned off the light to go to sleep, I thought, I can't wait to get out of here. And and the next day, you know, hopped on the train and went up to Dublin, where I am now. Still, by the way, I'm very happy I went, obviously. And it was an achievement in itself. Still wearing the same clothes from last week's episode because I'm recording this the day after, because I do not have a wardrobe of clothes in my suitcase. But I'm up here for a few days and then I'm back down to Luan, Haluan. But yeah, that was just a little so it's 50% good, 50% bad, but everybody will take the positives of, like, I went and I did it and it's done now. And, you know, it was nice to get by and all that. So, yeah, that is happy. But let's get into this episode. So, 41 songs. In number 41, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. The problem with Blinding Lights, since I listed it as something that won on the year one, I can't remember what year it was. It was in the last 5 years. Every time it comes on in the gym, because it's on one of the CDs in there or playlists, I like it a bit less. So I'm not even sure I actually really like Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. I like a couple of other songs a lot better than Blinding Lights. So that's why it's 41, basically, because it's the one song on the list I'm pretty sure I'm not that much of a fan of. Every other song I actually quite like. Number 40, Solar Power by Lord. It's a harsh placement on a really good song. But the problem with it is, and I mentioned it in the first time we talked about it, it is a rip off of Faith by George Michael. Now, Lord already said as much. Can't my words. The words are struggling today. She's already said as much, so I kind of forgive her for that, because it's almost like an ode to Freedom by George Michael. But so it's down low more because of its lack of originality rather than anything else, because I do think it's a really catchy song. And when I was talking to to someone about the song, they were like, I hate this song. And I thought it's a very, very powerful level of distaste for something that's kind of, you know, I'm not sure how you can get so offended by something. But I'm like that with songs as well, so I kind of understand. Number 39, Numa by Tool. I love watching what's his first? I nearly call him Jim Carrey. It's not Jim Carrey. Danny Carey, the drummer, play this on YouTube. It's amazing. I do love the bass in this song as well. The bass and the drums in particular are amazing. Not, you know, the vocals and stuff don't really hold my attention as much as the drumming does. But it's definitely worth a listen as to a band that are kind of like just beyond most other bands' skill levels. Tool are kind of like that. I'm not a massive fan of Tool, but I can always appreciate that level of musicianship, and it's worth a listen. Number 38, Rock the Casbah. I'm kind of surprised that I put this song this low. And I'm wondering, is it because it doesn't sound like The Clash? So, and that's not a bad thing, because it's good that bands branch out and start playing different styles of music. But when I think of The Clash, I think of like White Riot, and it's not even like London Calling. I think of like the early stuff. But then I really like Bank Robber and Magnificent Seven are great songs as well, and they're not really Clash-like either. So I don't know, maybe I expect less of The Clash than this. I think Rock the Casbah, a lot of piano in it and stuff like that. So I do quite like that. It's quite poppy for The Clash, but it's number 38. Number 37, the song that I think I forgot to mention in the first one. I had to go back to it when I was doing the closing up. It's Hold On by Alabama Shakes. Come on, Brittany. Come on, get back up. A rallying cry to herself. That's very brave in a song, I think. To like name check yourself and push to, you know, go to new heights, things like that. And I think I mentioned the little drum pattern in this song is particularly good. But again, it's one you dip in and out of. It's not a like an old timer. So, but for the year that it was in, which wasn't, from what I remember, a particularly strong year, it is a really good song. Number 36, Sign of the Times. I won't tell the story again of me first hearing Sign of the Times, but what I will say of it, it's one that when I first listened to it, and I thought to myself, this is one of those ones that won't last the test of time. It'll be a few listens, you'll forget about the song, then you'll hear it on the radio or somewhere else, and you'll go back to it and think, I don't really know why I like that song so much when I first heard it. But this is a proper this is a song that's going to be remembered genuinely. watch it live on SNL, even though his voice isn't up to its usual standards. He's struggling a little bit, Harry Styles, in it, or with a cold or flu, whatever he may have. But it's a really, I think it's a really well written, well performed song. The drums are so strange on it. That dragged, almost delay rolls in some of the choruses. It's very strange. It's so strangely played, but it's actually it suits the song. And I do think like he managed to get a really good level of I suppose it's, I don't know, like, because it's kind of how do you, if you're not the one that's kind of fully in charge. I'm not saying he doesn't have a say in it, but obviously his record company have a say in the session musicians that he brings in. It must be quite hard to get the people that you want to get, because these are people that you're going on tour with, and you have to stick with them. And you didn't know them since you were a kid, like you would in a regular band. I think it's quite a difficult thing to do, but I admire it. I appreciate it. So Harry Styles gets in at number 36. At number 35, Lonesome Street by Blur. I think it was a year where that was, excuse me for a second, just have a drink. I think Lonesome Street was the only year, well, sorry, the only song that I picked from this year. So it was going to win. But like I said, I do like it as a Blur comeback single. It's very kinksy. It's there's something about the rhythm of the guitars that reminds me of 60s songs. And I said it at once and I've said it again. The bit where he goes up, 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 I just think is just class. It's one of those things that stands out for me. It was a big comeback for Blur at the time, and it's actually a really good album. But that song in particular is a standout for me. But it had no opposition that year. I also want to mention, while I'm in this spot, because I was talking to a friend the other day about these lists, or making these, picking these songs. And when I went away from it, I realized that Gomez, the band Gomez, had not been represented on my lists at all. And I loved them growing up. I loved them. I thought they were unbelievable. And now I'm not saying that any of their songs would have won their particular years, but for sure, their first three albums, there would have been a song from each of those in those particular years. There will be in others I forgot as well, but Gomez is a kind of a band. And I moved away from it, I said, like, how did I not put Gomez in? My friends and I used to listen to them all the time. And they were such a strange band because they had this like a regular sounding pop singer, and then this dude who's like the most like Benson Hedges voice. The most Benson Hedges voice you can actually have, I would say. And it gave this kind of cool kind of difference between the songs when they shared vocals. I think they had three vocalists actually. But if you don't know Gomez, go and listen to Gomez. It's worth your while. Number 34, Deck Stark by Coldplay. Deck Stark by Radiohead. Coldplay wish they were Radiohead. Deck Stark is from a Moonshaped Pool. Brilliant song. The bass is outrageous. I love that album. Again, every Radiohead album seems like a comeback album at this stage because of their advancing years. But there's something very unique sounding about the song, and it's one of those kind of switch ups that Radiohead can do that other people can't do, and that's why I like them so much. But it is quite low on the list. If I was to put it on a Radiohead like list, it wouldn't be really high up, but on the year that it came out, it was a standout. So there it is. Number 33, High Ren by Ren. If you've seen this video, you'll never forget it. He's got a new video out. I can't remember the name of it. It's something Money Part 3. It's like a mini opera movie slash music video slash it's everything. And his lyrics are always interesting. His music's always interesting, but he's got this eye, himself and the dude he works with, who directs the videos, nearly called them short films, the kind of are. And they've got this eye for the dramatic and for when Ren is ready to say something that he feels that the song is about or signifies. They have this amazing way of focusing on him when all the stuff is going on around him, and he's becoming a character. He's acting and things. Just go and look up Ren's video. You'll find that type in Money Part 3. just a startling piece of art. And I think he's going to, or maybe he has by now. His album has become number one in the album charts, and it's amazing from where he's come from. He had severe illnesses, especially with Lyme's disease, and he's had mental health struggles that you talked about it, and that you got to respect him for that. He's an incredible guitarist. He was a busker with kind of a group in, I think it's in Bristol he's from, but this group that kind of hung around together, played in a band, sometimes supported Ren. Um, it's a real kind of story of when you're young and you want to be a musician. It's the kind of story that you hang on to for dear life, that this could happen to you, because every other avenue to kind of to fame, not even fame, but any, success is to do with suits and universal music and all these different kinds of things, and it just seems so far away. And Ren seems to have gone the long way around, but it's worth it for this guy is one of the most creative guys around. Number 32, One Day Like This. I think everybody likes One Day Like This. It's by Elbow. It's a very hard song not to like. That rousing kind of calling card at the end. Blow those curtains wide. One day like this will see me right. Yeah. What is it? Blow your curtains wide. One day like this. No, forget it. But you know what I mean. Everybody knows it, the melody and stuff like that. But it's an anthem, and I'd say it's one of those songs that maybe could outstay its welcome if it was put on too often. And it's one of those songs that would, I think every song loses its meaning if you listen too much. I mean the words more than anything, but I think it's one of those songs that could lose its meaning quite quickly if you, I would say, listen to it sparingly. Don't overindulge. Don't eat the whole dessert. Whatever that means. Number 31, Shake It Out. This is a surprise that this was quite low, and I was thinking, can I bump it up here? Can I bump it up there? And it came to a point where I started to realize that all these songs ahead of it are brilliant. A lot of the songs that I've talked about there now were songs that were out in the last 10, 12 years. Apart from Rock the Casbah, of course, but it's that old adage of the idea that you start to lose interest in music around the age of 26, or sorry, lose the interest in new music around the age of 26. And this seems like, to me, now we're getting into the stuff that I actually really do like. Now there's still a couple of newish ones in here as well, but it's mostly going back into my youth when I was really moved by, just by the magnificence of opportunity. The idea of opportunity was on the horizon, and all these songs were something I could aspire to write myself, even though it seems unlikely. But Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine, I mean, I love it. I think it's a great song. It's very memorable. The melody is gorgeous. The chorus is one of those ones that you sing along, and even if you don't know what the hell Florence and the Machine are talking about, because they are a band. I found this out for a former guest, all right, who works closely with Florence and the Machine, Florence Welch, that they are a band and not a solo artist. So it's a great song by them. Number 30, again, this is very unfortunate to be squeezed out to where it is, but it's such a good. I love this song, Dissident by Pearl Jam. It's on the, hold on, let me have a little bit of a drink to think about. Is it on the Versus album? It could be on their second album, Versus. Pretty sure it is. Just it is a rocker, but there's ballady points in it as well, and Vedder's really pushing his vocals as much as he can. So much so that he's unable to reproduce the high notes live, so he has to drop down an octave when he's singing those bits. But it's still not losing its power. The guitar parts are brilliant in it. It's a great song. They're a great band. Might be talking about them again soon. Spoiler. Number 29 is Sprawl, Mountains Beyond Mountains by Arcade Fire. I always liked this song from the first time I heard it, and then I heard it live, and I thought, this is going to be remaining in your category of great songs after this performance, and seeing Arcade Fire perform it was like, they were great live, but that was another level of um kind of performance. Well, there's about 9 of them in the band, so it kind of helps, but then you don't know where to look. But then the singer Regine, I think her name is, she takes over, and it's so good. It's kind of sound a little bit like Heart of Glass by Blondie, a little bit, not hugely, but if you go and listen to it now after I said that, you'll probably hear it, but maybe you wouldn't have before. And I don't know how I heard it, or did I hear someone else talk about it and now I remember it that way. It could be either. Number 28, Bulletproof by LaRue, the duo LaRue. I put this on my playlist in the gym, so when it's on, my phone is plugged into the stereo. This is what we get. A little bit of Bulletproof. I know Keen loves it. It's great. It sounds like a song from the 80s, although it's obviously not. It's from the 2000s, I think, or maybe just after. But again, just sticks in your head, just stayed in your head, and it's very on repeat listen. I often wonder, have you seen the film Drive with Ryan Gosling? That I think the whole soundtrack of Drive by Ryan Gosling is based on Bulletproof by LaRue. There's a conspiracy theory for you. If you'd like to take that, which you can. And you don't even have to say this, I heard it here, I heard this in this podcast. You can have that information or that conspiracy theory. I will let it. I've put it out there for all of you. Eat Your Young by Hosier, 27. That's the newest song on the list. Hosier is an extremely talented songwriter, musician, singer, nice guy. I'd say he makes a great cup of tea. He's probably able to do knit as well. I'm sure he's got many, many values, but when it comes down to songwriting, something like Eat Your Young, the lyrics I think I mentioned already, so I won't again, because I'm trying to avoid repeating myself from the last episode. But the lyrics in are so dark, like, and the video is very strange as well. And there's a strangeness to Hosier that I can't quite put my finger on. And he seems to be getting stranger. It's like this bravery in his creativity that he's allowing himself to be a certain way with his music and with his music videos. And you can only like compliment someone for doing that. I think something like Take Me to Church, which I think is probably a dark song anyway. I've never really looked into it. Eden, I love Eden. Sedated is great, but there's probably some darkness in it. But as he's gotten past that, and he's got into stuff like Nina Cried Power and stuff, you're getting into brave territory where you're messing around with the idea of what you can and can't sing about. And if you listen to the lyrics of Eat Your Young, it's like, Jesus. Number 26, Tender by Blur. I'm very surprised this isn't in the top 10, but it's maybe on the day that I wrote this list out and did the rankings that it fell down to 26 and I didn't move it. And I'm looking at the list now and I'm probably thinking, well, it probably could have been higher up, but look, it's not. It is gospel by a pop band, by a Brit pop band, the dreaded word, Brit pop band. And the sharing of lead vocals between Damon Albarn and Graham Coxon, and it works very well. Live, it's amazing to watch. I've never seen them perform it live. I saw Blur back too early. They hadn't written it yet, but there is something about that song that like really draws you in. It could go on for 12, 15 minutes and I wouldn't care, and I'd still love it. Number 25, Jesus, Etc. by Wilco. A band that got famous around the time of 9/11. So much so that in Jesus, Etc., the lyrics are tall buildings, gay voices escape. What's the line? Tall buildings, something, voices escape, singing sad songs. And people started to say that that was about 9/11. The problem is it was released before 9/11. And then you know what happens. People started to say Jeff Tweedy, the principal songwriter of Wilco, knew about 9/11. Well, I'm not sure people said that, but people definitely messed up the years, and it came out in 2002 rather than 2001. But that song has been left with this mark, this eerie mark of being called a song about 9/11, even though it came out after. That's just not to say Jeff Tweedy didn't write it before it, but he says he didn't. So we can only believe Jeff Tweedy. Number 24, Step On with the Happy Mondays is one of the grooviest, if you don't mind me slipping into Austin Powers territory for a second, one of the most grooviest songs that has been released in my lifetime. That piano part, just outrageous. They're Twisting My Melon Man, all that good stuff. Bez dancing with his maracas. I saw them play this live at Slane in like 1999, maybe 2000, something like that. I mean, they were kind of looking a bit bedraggled at that point, considering they did a lot of drugs. But if you listen back to it, the idea that Happy Mondays became a band and actually got famous is outrageous. Not because they're not talented, but it just seems like the most unorganized, shambolic, under-rehearsed group of people that have ever been brought together into a room. Yet somehow they released this kind of dancey, poppy, psychedelic anthem in the 1990s. Early, was it 89 or 90? Can't remember. Anyway, it's brilliant. Number 23, Paper Planes by MIA. If you don't know the song, you do know the song, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. You might know the name, you might know who MIA is. She's a really interesting person. Actually, go watch her documentary. You will know Paper Planes. It's so good that it'll cut away sounds of guns and cash registers, get it out you. And she's got more records than the KGB, apparently, which is a great line. Very memorable. And it came up in a crossword puzzle I was doing the other day. And it was like, who does MIA have more records than? I was like, that's a great question. But if you didn't know, you're like, what? Because but what's MIA? Who's MIA? If you didn't know MIA was a person, you're there for a while trying to get the answer. Number 20, we're in the top 20, folks. Red Hill Mining Town by U2. Just a beautiful thing. A beautiful, beautiful thing. They did a great reworking of it. I think I mentioned that, like with a brass section and stuff, with Bono singing a bit lower down. Maybe they've changed the key, or he's singing, or it's an octave thing. But I think they probably just changed the key. But he blasts it out in the album version. He can't sing it live, so they had to change it. He couldn't sing it live then when he wrote it. So how was he going to sing it live, now? But it's very. Like, I know that they're quite religious, and Bono's quite religious, and it sounds like something that would, that the words are like something that would be in a sermon. The kind of impassioned kind of call to arms to, you're always left to hold on to. Yeah, like hanging on to something, and how we can do it, or why we should, maybe is more importantly, why we should do it, hang on to something. And Bono he's just on fire in that song. Number 19, Seasons by Future Islands. Seasons, I said this already, but Future Islands' performance of Seasons on Letterman is the greatest performance I've ever seen. Maybe not, but it's amazing. It's the one of the bravest performances I've ever seen, for sure. If you've seen it, you'll never forget it. Like, that's impossible. It's a great song, by the way, just not just the performance, but he growls and he almost wants the audience to come at him. He challenges them, and this isn't a song about that. Like, it's about waiting for someone, but he's just in this. It's the way he performs it. I can't really describe it. His voice goes death metal at one point. It's just mad. And someone was like, you need to see this. And I was like, do I? And I was watching this guy, and no, you had to see it. I did need to see it. They were right. Number 18, Estranged by Guns N' Roses, a tour de force of balladry. Axl Rose is probably, the guy who goes for the hard man stuff all the time, thinks he's a hard man, doesn't like, talking about his feelings and stuff. But then he writes a song like Estranged and makes it 9 minutes and puts it in the center of their one of their biggest albums, or probably their biggest albums, and then goes and owns it, like, and says it. This is one of my things, and but it's so good. It just keeps going back. It's like circular. Just goes verse, chorus, bridge over and over again. That's brilliant. The guitar by Slash and everything is in perfect kind of tune with each other. Um, I love it. I love it. There's a weird video for it, by the way. I think he's swimming with dolphins in it or something like that. Um, well, that's the last time I saw it. Would have been years ago. So maybe there's just dolphins in the video or in the vicinity. Maybe he's not swimming with them, but yeah. Number 17, Novocaine for the Soul by Eels. Again, this is one of those ones where I used to see it on MTV, and the guys from Eels be floating in an alleyway. Again, they could be getting this mixed up, this video, but I remember it being just such a cool, laid back kind of song. Everything was kind of out at that time was kind of laid back, and someone like, if you take someone like Beck, there was this kind of vibe to that music. And as far as I remember from the book I read by Mark Everett, the songwriter, it's done in loops. I think the drum part is a loop, and there's other stuff playing over it, little kind of samples and loops, and they're a full band, so they're playing it fully live. But it's just, it never, like, I don't know if I liked it immediately, but as soon as I cottoned on to what I was listening to or what it was all about, then I realized, like, this is one of the greats of my 90s era, and it is. Number 16, Everything in Its Right Place, the most experimental song by a mainstream, in inverted commas, band. I don't know if I said this in the last episode, but buying that episode of Mojo magazine, and they put the review for Kid A in, and saying that Radiohead's new album sounds like a bit of a wank. I think I did say it in the last one. It's never left my mind that somebody was like, and I guarantee you they went back and re-looked at that, or rewrote it, even, that review, because that's what Pitchfork do now, apparently. So if Pitchfork, let me have a drink before I go into this. If Pitchfork gave you if you don't know what Pitchfork is, it's a music website, and they rate albums, and you can get 7.8 for an album, 8.2, whatever. But they've gone and they've done this whole thing of changing the scores on albums that they didn't like at the time. They did like, which is I don't really like that. Stick with your guns, I know you can change your minds about music, but don't go. It's like a campaign that they have at the moment doing that, and it doesn't seem right. I apologize for having my running jacket there on the chair. That's very, usually these things, it's so weird having yourself. I was talking to Leah about this yesterday. It's so weird looking at yourself on screen, and it's worse looking into the camera. It's so creepy thinking that I'm looking right at you. So where do I look? I don't know. I mean, notes maybe, but then it's disrespectful. Number 15, Toxicity by System of a Down. Thunderous stuff by System of a Down. The whole album is great. I love it. It's so different. Nobody sounded like that. The things that they were doing with music at the time, and through the music of their homeland, Armenia, and things. But there's something about Toxicity. I think people like Chop Suey a bit more, may be more aware of Chop Suey. There's something very heavy. It's really heavy, Toxicity. Really heavy drums, really heavy bass, and there's a bit at the end where it kicks in again to kind of overdrive. It keeps going heavier and heavier, and I just think that's just class. It's a class song. Number 14, Cast No Shadow by Oasis. The best song they ever wrote, if you ask me. It's about Richard Ashcroft. It's a very simple song chord wise. It's I don't think it's particularly as he faced the sun, he cast no shadow is a quite a profound lyric, but I don't think much of the rest of the lyrics are that profound. But I do think there's something like in the simplicity of it. I talked to my dad about that, about some of the Beatles songs being so simple, but that's why they're so effective and so loved, because people, especially maybe non-musical people, can't maybe listen to Numa by Tool and follow all along because it's just all over the place. But if you're listening to something like Cast No Shadow, it's right there. It doesn't need a lot of explaining, and the melody is just present. There's no, like a lot of Joni Mitchell stuff, you need to work out what she's doing. that shows her genius, but I can also understand why I might have made some people kind of move away from her stuff. I'm just using Johnny Mitchell as an example. There was one thing I wanted to say before we go on to the next one. What is very strange about this list is like Nirvana are like my second favorite band of all time, but they're not on the list. They're not one of the top songs, and that's so weird. But it just so happens in the years that the songs came out, there were songs that I liked more than Nirvana. But if I had, if I was ranking albums, In Utero in 1993 wins hands down. So just one of those things. Number 13, quite high up this one. um, even of today, if I said I was writing that today, I don't think this would be as high as it is. But it's New Slaves by Kanye West. Is it New Slave or New Slaves? New Slaves, I think. That wow 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 wow. What a great song! Like what a great intro to a song. And it's so memorable. And it's a powerful message as well. I mean, I'm not going to go into it. I don't think you need to hear that from a white man from Ireland, what it's about, but I do think it's worth looking into what it is actually about, what Kanye West trying to say. Has he said too much in the last couple of years? Absolutely. He should have maybe said nothing at all. But um, that's not to say I don't still admire his music. And New Slaves is definitely one of those ones that's up there. And there's a sample at the end or a moment at the end, but Kanye West is using auto tune, and it's gorgeous. Like it just sounds so good. He is the greatest person at using auto tune, I think. Um, Number 12, Teardrop by Massive Attack. The atmosphere in this song is as good as any you'll hear. They leave space, they leave like not quite silence, but like hiss. Like if you put a needle on a record before the music starts, you get this. That's what it sounds like in the background of Teardrop by Massive Attack. The this the run of the chord on the guitar and those big bass and piano notes. And the singing is gorgeous as well. It's that's a work of genius, and like I don't say that about everything. It is a work of genius. And why is it only 12? Well, I don't know actually. What a shit answer that was. But it's amazing, and the video is so good with the what's that noise? All right. Filming in the womb. It's incredible. It's a great song. Number 11, Losing My Edge by LCD Sound System. I think in 5 years this will be higher than number 11 because this is exactly what it feels like when you're getting old and music is you can't keep up with the music. So you want the new music. So you want to tell everybody how you were relevant back in the day because you had all the old records and people used to like you for it. And that's quite sad. But I can see why people do it, but just there is a lot. It's not like the whole story told in the song is great, but there's more to it than that, and it is just one of those that repetitive beats that I started to get into when I was like in my 30s, and I hated them before that, and then all of a sudden I'd listen to the same beat for 15 minutes, no problem. Especially if it's LCD Sound System making those beats. So it's high, but yeah, it deserves to be up there. Okay, we're in the top 10. Number 10, Digging in the Dirt, Peter Gabriel. Myself and Joanne, my friend, who's an art therapist, who's been on the show and will be again. There's a spoiler. But we were talking about this song, and it's clearly about therapy. And maybe we'll talk about it again with Joanne, so I won't go too much in depth into it. But looking back on a lot of Peter Gabriel's career, he is if incredibly personal in his lyrics, incredibly honest in his lyrics. Salisbury Hill, which most people will know, is about him leaving Genesis and how his wife said, "Look, just leave," because he wasn't enjoying it and he was fighting with the band members and stuff like that. there's so much of his personal life in his lyrics. On that same album, "Come Talk to Me," another song that could have made it in here. It's about him having an affair and his daughter then refusing to talk to him afterwards after it's all come out. And to put that out into the world is mad. But "Digging in the Dirt," "Stay With Me, I Need Support." What a great song that is. Listen to the live version if you can, from Italy in 1993 on YouTube. Talk about what was I talking about earlier on about like one of the greatest performances I've seen. Future Islands, "Digging in the Dirt" from Italy is up there with that. Number 9, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." The most fun song on the list. That's it. Like, yeah, it's the catchiest, liveliest, boppiest song on the list. It's got Cyndi Lauper singing it, whose voice is like only unique is the best way of describing it. The lyrics are great. You don't have to be a girl to enjoy it. But it's just the opening of it. It just says like just dance or skip or do something. It's incredible. I love it. Number 8, open brackets, "Nothing But," close brackets, "Flowers" by Talking Heads. Are we moving from a concrete jungle back into a densely, what was I going to say there? A densely ridden, no, that's not, yeah, it is. No, we'll say a densely forested place. He talks about seeing the end of, these driving along the road and seeing these strip malls all falling away and going back into how nature should be. David Byrne would love that, because David Byrne is not let's say, a people person. I get him. I get that. But I think he likes a bit of quiet. He wasn't made out for the role that he now has. And yeah, the song sums it up, but it's catchy as anything. I think I said it on the last one. It's the first time I heard it was on Clerks 2, the film. And it's a bizarre song to be on that film soundtrack, but there you have it. And film is not only brilliant, but it also shares music with you that you may not know beforehand. And then all of a sudden, I love Talking Heads. Number 7, "Running Up That Hill," Kate Bush. We all know it. It's become another, it got her to her first number 1. And maybe, no, not her first number 1. Her first number 1 in years and years and years, I should say. But because it was on that program Stranger Things. But it's, if only could, I'd make a deal with God and forget him to. Well, I'm always forgetting that line when I'm trying to do the lyrics. I should write them down. Running up the hill, running up that building. Again, don't know how you run up a building. I understand the hill part, obviously. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but yeah, everything, just the drums. That song inspired "Speed of Sound" by Coldplay. Actually, the drum part, just jam packed of useless random facts. Number 6, "There There" by Radiohead, the greatest song they ever made. Just get 3 people to play beats on the toms. Just get 3 people to play the beats on the toms, a bass and a guitar, and we'll take it from there. And halfway through the song, one of the lads will switch off and he'll plug in his guitar and he'll play an outrageously cool solo. And then we'll go back to the drums. And it sounds very easy, but why does nobody else write songs like that? Look at the video. I always like video is a huge part of the music, obviously. I don't think it's the be all and end all. I certainly don't think it is now. I think it was amazingly, like, Praise You. That video for Praise You was just genius, But would the song have made it without the video? It probably would have done well, but when you add the video in, it becomes something different. And I just think you should watch There because it's half Tom York walking around the forest and half stop motion animation. And it's like a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, basically. Number 5, "Free Fall" and Tom Petty. Again, one of the greatest songs ever. Tom Petty could have been 3 or 4 times in this list. Obviously, when I did the episode and I named other songs that I liked in certain years, his name popped up a couple of times. But I think I like Tom Petty more than I let on. Not that I'm trying to hide it, but hide my love for Tom Petty because he's so controversial, But I've I have great memories from when I was a kid hearing Tom Petty with my mom, but it's there's something so of the common man about Tom Petty, I think, and people say that about Bruce Springsteen and Eddie Vedder, and they say it about Neil Young and a lot of different people like that. But there's something, I think Tom Petty is even more so because he doesn't come across like a rock star. I think Neil Young does at times, or he did at times. I think Eddie Vedder did with the way he did the whole I had Moody and I hate Ticketmaster kind of thing. And I don't think Tom Petty has ever done that. I think Tom Petty he's not like a showman. He's a front man of the Heartbreakers, but and he sounds like every time you see him on stage or you saw him on stage, he sounded like the album. And that is harder than you would think because you can see some bands. And did I just knock off my video? Because I'll just keep talking for a second. Let me plug it out. You see some bands like that sound absolutely horrendous when they're hold on. Oh, I knocked it off altogether. People are listening to this and yeah, there we go. People are listening to it on the podcast platforms. Just going, what is the animal? But he always sounds like Tom Petty, and that's him straight away. And not everybody's like that, but he's one of them. Number 4, This Is a Low by Blur. Again, very personal to me. Incredible song about like depression, sang through the idea of the weather forecast in England, Malin Head, and all these different the Queen's gone around the bend, jumped off Land's End, all these kind of mentions of geographical sites and in Britain, but it's just the chorus. Like, I thought I could sing it when I was a bit younger, and I used to do that like on the guitar, but I never tried it in front of anyone because I often wondered, like, can I sing it or do I just think I can? So when I'm hitting the bit where he says this is a low, he goes higher on the low, ironically, but he goes high, and sometimes I felt I hit it, and then sometimes I felt I was just a bit flat on it. So I can never like get the build up, the kind of courage to sing in front of people, which I can with, say, like Richard Ashcroft sang songs. So, but it is very personal because it's something that I've listened to since I was quite young, and it's just, yeah, I got to see that live. I don't remember it, but I know it was on the set list. But yeah, that was the first gig I was at, and it was incredible. The top 3 songs, okay. So I want to make sure that what I was saying about this beforehand, the top 3 songs are in the top 5 songs of all time for me. All right, so these are always going to be in the top 3. Other ones couldn't have been. A Day in the Life of the Beatles, for instance, my favorite song, couldn't have been in this list. But number 3, Graceland by Paul Simon, a storyteller. When it comes to songwriting, when you talk about people like Neil Young and Eddie Vedder, storytellers, the songs go from A to B to C. They move. They're not just staying in A about I love this a girl and I love this boy. I tell you one thing, right? I'm having a shocker. Look, because after coming out my headphone, let me fix this first. It's falling apart. Like, it's where I was hungover. Been a long time. But I had the story of the journey in Graceland, and the music is just so subtle at times, and then it comes in, and you're thinking, Jesus, these guys in this band, not only are they extremely talented, but they're playing their arses off on this song. I mean, the whole Graceland album is brilliant, but the Graceland as a song stands out for me just because of that journey and that you go on with people, and sometimes he's saying things but I don't know what he's talking about. What is it? Mississippi Delta shining like a national guitar. I don't know what that means. I understand a Delta can shine, but what's a national guitar? Maybe I should look that up. Maybe every state in America, because they have national tree, they have a national bird. Maybe they have a national guitar, and maybe Mississippi's is a Gibson Les Paul. Who knows? But I don't know what he's talking about, but it sounds so good, and I love his voice anyway. Number two is my third favorite song of all time. It is called "How Soon Is Now," and it is by The Smiths. Manchester's The Smiths, Morrissey, The Twit, um, an awful Egypt, Morrissey, but an incredibly gifted lyricist. Even though his songs are usually quite miserable, like the line in this song, "There's a club where you'd like to go. You could meet someone who really loves you, but you go and you stand on your own, and you leave on your own, and you go home and you cry and you want to die." Um, that's the last time I went to Karma. Actually, that's how I felt afterwards. No, that's not true. But the lyrics are great in the song. I am the sun. What is it? I am the sun. I am the air of a shyness that is criminally vulgar. Like, that's great. It is taken from something from a film, I think. So a Sheila Delaney written film, I'm pretty sure. So he does rob a lot of stuff, Marcy, but he puts them in a way, and he sounds miserable. But the effects in the guitar. And listen, I'm not a guitar tech. I play a little guitar. I don't know about the pedals and what you can do with certain amps and all that stuff. It's not my thing. It never has been my thing. I just like when it sounds different. This sounds like nothing I've ever heard. Nothing's ever come close to this, the way this sounds. There's nothing before it that sounds like that. There's certain like things like, oh, the Kinks, cut up the speaker on their amp so it sounded fuzzy for all day and all of the night, that kind of thing. Or was it really, you really got me, maybe? But anyway, one of the King songs. But whatever Johnny Marr does with that tremolo sounding effect and then the slide bit in the middle, I don't know. You're dealing with this guy who's 20 years of age and he's writing songs like that. That's freakish behavior. Go and listen to it, though. Listen to the Smiths anyway. Just ignore the fact that Morrissey was once in them. I'm sure the former members do that anyway. But number one, let me get a drink. If you listen to the last episode, you already know this. I said it's my second favorite song of all time, and it is called Karma Police. Now, what I didn't do the last time, and what I'm going to do this time. So, what I mentioned last time was that this was written around the Sexy Sadie by the Beatles. So the piano part was similar to Sexy Sadie by the Beatles, and you can kind of get that when you hear it, and you kind of go, you can understand it. It's not the same melody or whatever like that, but there's certain parts in it where you're kind of thinking that is quite similar to Sexy Sadie by the Beatles. But then there's an acoustic guitar part comes in, and the whole band come in, and it's got like the drums are quite heavy sounding for the type of song it is. It's like it's quite heavy, so it's quite different. So I'm going to read the lyrics, and I'm going to tell you why I've read the lyrics. I haven't done it for any others. Okay, so. Oh God, yeah, okay, I accept you're snooping on my phone. All right. Okay, so verse 1. Karma Police, arrest this man. He talks in maths. He buzzes like a fridge. He's like a detuned radio. Karma Police, arrest this girl. Her Hitler hairdo is making me feel ill, and we have crashed her party. Then the chorus is, this is what you get, this is what you get, this is what you get when you mess with us. Verse 3 is, Karma Police, I've given all I can. It's not enough. I've given all I can, but we're still on the payroll. And then this is what you get. And then for a minute there, I lost myself. Phew, for a minute there, I lost myself. Okay, so why I'm reading the lyrics now is because the idea is that apparently Tom York wrote it in a way that it was kind of dreamlike in the verses. And at the end, for a minute there, I lost myself. He wakes up from a dream, which to me sounds great. It makes it sound even better, even if it's not about that. But the imagery of the man who talks in maths, and we've all met people like that who just talk over our heads. He buzzes like a fridge. He's like a detuned radio. That was what Tom York was hearing at the time in regards to music around 1995. He said everybody sounded the same, and the radio sound detuned, and it buzzed like a fridge. And he even said Radiohead's big song at the time, Creep, was very much like that. Arrest this girl, her Hitler hairdo is making me feel ill. Apparently that was about somebody at a party that Tom York was at. Like, Tom York does not like parties, so I imagine everybody looks like Hitler and he hates all of them. But I like the imagery because it seems so, well, it's so bizarre, obviously. But the idea that Karma Police, Radiohead as a collective came up with the idea of Karma Police as if you were acting like a grumpy or a dick in the studio or on tour, Radiohead always used to say to the band member, if you keep it up, the karma police will come to get you, meaning karma will come around and someone else be a grumpy arsehole around you. I love that idea because I love karma. I love the idea of karma. I love that, there might be this idea out there in the world that if we are arseholes to other people, well, we're going to get it back at some point. And to be honest, we'll deserve it if we are arseholes to people, especially if we're just being arseholes for the sake of being arseholes. And maybe it strikes me, maybe that it has always struck me as an important song because of the mention of karma in it. I also love Instant Karma by John Lennon, just for to make that statement even more factual. There's two songs. I like actually Karma Chameleon by Chameleon's a great song. But there's something I do. There's something in the music of Karma Police that's amazing. There's something in Tom York's voice at the end when he's singing "For a Minute There I Lost Myself." It's just out of my range, but I try my best every time I hear the song because it just makes me very passionate. Go on to Letterman, 1997 when they played Karma Police on it. It's astounding piece of music, and Johnny Greenwood's on this electric piano. It makes it sound like 10 times better than the piano for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just this. I really like the sound of the electric piano. And then there's the little bit of guitar part at the end, the electric guitar, where Ed O'Brien kind of messes with the distortion, or the feedback rather than distortion, and it just dies at the end. And there's a click, and then there's this very nice stray piano chord, and that's it. It is, to me, we can all talk about our own favorite songs and we can all make a case for them. But to me, apart with the exception of A Day in the Life by the Beatles, which is just, I don't know what that is, but it's amazing. Karma Police is the greatest song, and I've got to see them play it live 3 times, and every time has been, I said 2 times or 3 times? 3 times, sorry. And every time it's been I'm just so thrilled that I get to hear my second favorite song in the world ever played 3 times live on stage. So yeah, that's the top 41 songs. Or not top 40, but the 41 songs I picked ranked. We've cleaned everything up. I can turn on to the next page for the next guest, the next episode. I feel good. I feel like refreshed. And that's the most important thing, I think. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope we've all taken at least one song from here and made it a little bit, made us curious about the song and thinking maybe I can go and listen to the live version that I mentioned, or maybe I'll go watch Clerks 2 so I can listen to Nothing But Flowers by Talking Heads. Clerks 2 is probably not worth it, but it's maybe worth it for the first 5 minutes when you hear that song. But that's it. I'm glad you joined me for this, another little journey, a little solo trip. Every so often it's nice to have a little solo one. Next week I won't tell you the guest yet, but I will be back in this apartment again to record, so that'll be 3 in a row. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks to John for doing the thing he always does. We very much appreciate it. Thanks to my mom, my dad, my granddad, Jer and Calvin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would. It'd be very helpful. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc., are all the podcast platforms. We're always grateful that you tune in and listen and watch this. So thank you very much for that. I'm off to have an old cup of tea and relax for the evening. Take care of yourselves and chat to you later.